And we're in Rock Creek Parkway. And this is where you get a taste of England because you can drive on the wrong side as it's a one-way street in the morning. Can't really make it out. Oh, the Vice President's crash truck. Check this out. Foam unit, U.S. Navy. That is on its way to the Vice President's house, which means the Vice President's helicopter is due to be landing within the next half hour or so. So they deploy foam unit fire trucks to the Vice President's house whenever the Vice President's helicopter or the President's helicopter is coming in and out. So Marine 2 should be inbound in the next half hour or hour. Fire trucks always get there early because of traffic. So we're going to take a walk over to the White House. I'm going to take you past Barack Obama's house entrance, and then we'll see Ivanka's house. We'll see a few other cool houses, and then we'll make our way down past where President Reagan was shot, and then into the White House itself area. They are working on new helicopters, but I don't know when the new helicopter replacements are coming. The old ones have been around about 50 years. This is a mosque. This is Barack Obama's backyard. And I know you think that's a political statement, but actually, it's just geography. He actually lives right back there in those houses. Oh, there's Marine 2. Remember, we just mentioned it. So, Marine 2 is inbound to the Vice President. The Islamic Center. I don't know if it's technically a mosque. Hello. I can't even get near Barack's door. I'll show you why. It's a bunch of German kids. So the Vice President's helicopter is landing mode. So let's go down this street here. Now this red brick building on the right, is the GRU FSB operational headquarters in Washington, D.C. The Russian Defense Attaché. Hello, Hong Kong. I wish I did have a mask. So the Russian Defense Attaché's office is here. It's from this location. The Russians do most of their spying in the Washington, D.C. area. Most of their military spying takes place right here from this building. In fact, it used to be the FBI would be sitting outside waiting to grab potential turncoats and traitors before they went inside. Now you see that police car over there? That's a U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division police car. And that road over there is closed. So, why is that road closed? Because Barack Obama lives down there. Yep, that's Barack Obama's house down there. Now, as I mentioned, Obama lives behind the mosque, and behind the Russian military base is Ivanka Trump's house. Yeah. So Obama lives behind a mosque, and Ivanka Trump lives behind a Soviet spy base, Russian spy base. This is just some of the fun of the geography of Washington, D.C. In fact, you can see the Secret Service are out in front of Ivanka's house. So there's Secret Service units. This is Ivanka's house. Now, this is also filled with ambassadors. So most of the properties we're going to see are ambassadors' residences. Barack Obama and Ivanka Trump. Ivanka Trump lives in that White House right there, their family. I can hear Marine 2 in orbit. More Secret Service guys. So Marine 2 is up there. Let's get under this tree, maybe we can see it. There he is. So that's Vice President Pence's helicopter, and it's going into the Vice President's. This is islands. What islands are those? Sendridad Islands, Embassy of Iceland. So that's the Icelandic ambassador's house. It's the ambassador of Iceland lives there.
Like no one's been asked to work from home.
Some of these don't have signs. Some beautiful houses. This is a neighborhood known as Kalorama Circle. This is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. Welcome to Periscope. So this neighborhood is filled with very, very rich blue bloods and also ambassadors. Probably the nicest ambassador's residence is coming up at the end of the street. We'll see in about 2 or 3 minutes. I'm Penguin 6. We're on a walk around Washington, D.C. We're going to head over to the White House. It's going to take us about 20 minutes to get to the White House from where we are right now by walking. And in the way, we'll see where President Reagan was shot, the assassination place. And we're also going to see some movie scenes were filmed in the neighborhood we're going to go. Yeah, I'm right in the middle, yeah? I've got the little $6 million starter home in this neighborhood. So, Barack Obama and Ivanka Trump anchor one side of this neighborhood, and we're going to go down the other side where there's some big ambassadors' residences that anchor the other side. Then we'll spill out onto Connecticut Avenue. We'll go past the Hinckley Hilton, where President Reagan was shot. We'll go through DuPont Circle, where they filmed a number of movies, and then make our way to the White House grounds in about 15-20 minutes. In fact, I was just watching one of those where there's another Secret Service. So that is the uniform division of the Secret Service. They're not the guys in the suits, they're the guys in uniform. And they are in charge of all embassy security and diplomatic security in Washington, D.C. This area houses start at 5 million, 10 million. This is really Tony back here. So this is where the ambassadors live. Whew. Now this next one is huge. How huge? The estate starts right here, and it's not going to end for another couple minutes. All right. So this is the fence. This is the edge of their property, and we've got to go. We got to go farther up so you can actually see the house. All ambassadors have pretty huge houses. Oh, there's a rental scooter. If I wanted to scoot my way, I could just rent that. Okay, we're still passing this huge property. We still haven't gotten to the edge of this guy's property because it's a massive house. Okay, there's the Mexican ambassador. This is the Thailand ambassador. And this beast, this monster home on the left, is the French ambassador. Flag is at half-staff for Jacques Chirac. But this is the residence of the French ambassador to Washington, D.C. Now, I should note, the U.S. ambassador to Paris has an equally stunning and amazing home. So it's kind of a tit-for-tat kind of thing, yeah? The French get an amazing ambassador's residence. America's wrong one. Now, I don't really have time for much. So, Vice President's helicopter is coming again. They're just doing donuts. There he is. He's in the tree. Let's see if I can... he's behind the tree. The helicopter, there it goes. You can just see it. Is Pence even in town? If the Vice President isn't in town, then they're just doing practice. So this, guys, is the French ambassador's home. It is one of the largest ambassadors' residences, but I don't know if it's actually technically the largest. I think the Japanese, there's your screenshot. I'm going to keep the camera steady. Oh, we should get one with the flag, yeah? Let's go over a little bit farther so you guys can get a better screenshot. There we go. There you go. There's the French ambassador's residence. If you guys want to take a screenshot and share it. It's a beautiful building, isn't it? Just beautiful. I don't know the whole history. High rent. You know, they bought it. They bought it. They're not paying rent. They were pretty smart. Oh, actually, you know, the flag might be at half staff for the policemen yesterday. 4 policemen were killed in 36 de Loufs, or whatever, the police headquarters in Paris yesterday. So it's either for Jacques Chirac or for the French policemen. What's it worth, 100 million? I think if it was on the open market, it would probably go for 40 or 50 million easily because of the land. Now over here is the Portuguese ambassador's residence. Now Portugal, I guess, isn't as rich as France, but this is the residence of the Portuguese ambassador. Where are we? We're in Washington, D.C. We're in a neighborhood known as Calorama Circle. This is where Barack Obama and Ivanka Trump live. It's where the ambassadors live. In fact, this place is now for sale. This is probably zone diplomatic, though. So you couldn't buy this unless you're an embassy, because they zone certain places are basically reserved for embassy staff. Now, this building here used to be the Chinese embassy. Then they built a new embassy, and I'm not sure, I think this is Chinese embassy staff residences. So the Chinese, like the Russians, they have all of their staff live in a compound rather than live in the open market and be exposed to decadent capitalist ideas. No, it's not a really fancy, it's just a kind of nondescript, boring building. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is the Chinese embassy residence here. And then the Chinese embassy was moved. This used to be the Chinese embassy. The Chinese embassy has moved, about a mile north of here to another area next to the Israeli embassy and the Moroccan embassy, and several other Arab embassies are up there. It's a kind of a place where they could build big embassies in a secure location in Van Ness, D.C. Okay, so now, guys, we're on Connecticut Avenue. What 100 block are we on? 2100 Connecticut Avenue. Guys, we got to go down to about 500 Connecticut Avenue, 600 Connecticut Avenue, because that's down by the White House. So we got about a 15 block walk. So the Ambassador Hotel, I'm not sure where that hotel is. That's one in New York, right? I think some of these apartment buildings used to be hotels back in the day. They had the layout like a hotel. So this is the neighborhood called Calorama. It's just north of DuPont Circle. DuPont Circle is the predominantly homosexual community of Washington, D.C. Back in the day when they were still extremely ostracized, they all moved to DuPont Circle and gentrified all the houses and turned it into a vibrant commercial retail hub. So you'll see some rainbow flags as we make our way into DuPont Circle. Kind of like, what's it, Haight-Ashbury or whatever the area is in San Francisco. I can't remember. Not Haight-Ashbury. Most expensive house in D.C. You know, I'm not honestly sure. There was because we've got to remember the diplomatic places are kind of off limits to the general public. There's been some houses almost 30 or 40 million. They're generally like estates, they're on like 10 acres. Yeah, I guess technically the White House. It costs the most to get in there. Jeff Bezos has a house around here somewhere. Well, you get all different prices. I mean, in my neighborhood, in Georgetown, for example, and stuff, 1,000 square feet will run you $1 million, basically. I'm looking at a place this weekend that's about $1.3 million for 2,000 square feet. And it's pretty beat up. Is DC safe? I mean, not compared to Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong is just So much safer. But in certain neighborhoods of DC, it's pretty safe. That's an embassy over there. Is that Andorra? What's that, red and white flag? I think that is Andorran embassy, part of the EU. I don't practice law. Can I afford it? Yeah, probably. Question is whether I want to spend that much money on something kind of run down and old, you know? I am an attorney. I don't practice. I worked as an attorney for a year or two, but I didn't like it. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a techie. So I don't want to live in Northern Virginia. My kids go to school in the district, so I prefer to be walking distance to my kids' school, which saved our bacon last night because one of the kids forgot his homework, a major homework assignment he forgot at school. And we were able to go back to the school, berate a janitor to get in, and rescue his homework from his locker. Well, no, actually, most of DC is actually very, very nice. Certain parts of DC are crap. How often do I randomly meet attorneys? All the flipping time. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you don't even notice it. I mean, like, I go to my kid's school and it's like everybody's an attorney. Yeah, I did go to law school, but I don't want to practice. Why did all those 3 years spend all that money? Don't know, haven't got there. So, this is the Hilton, Washington, D.C. Let's go over here because there was some famous stops. D.C. does have a lot of attorneys per capita. In fact, it's very common for most people, even not in legal careers, to be attorneys here. Okay, here's the garage. This is a new garage. This was built in the early 1980s, but not early enough. Let me tell you why. All right, so in 1981, President Ronald Reagan was giving a speech to the Teamsters, the unions, here at the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. I'll show you where. President Reagan came out of that door and walked across this street right here to make his way to his limousine. And right here where I was John Hinckley. John Hinckley was a crazy man inspired by Taxi Driver, the movie, and he shot at President Reagan and his bodyguards right from this spot. Reagan was literally thrown into his car, but not before James Brady, two police officer, and a Secret Service agent were also shot. Reagan, as he was being pushed into the car, a bullet ricocheted off his car and between the car door and got him under his armpit. The Secret Service agent threw him into the car as this was happening, and Reagan thought that he actually said to the Secret Service agent, "You broke my damn rib." So they got in the car and they hauled ass across this intersection. In fact, if I recall, some of the cars went right over this curb. No, John Hinckley was inspired by the movie Taxi Driver. He wanted to impress Jodie Foster by doing something ridiculous like killing the president, so that's why he did it. So they went over this curb and then turned to head down to the White House, which, as we've mentioned, is in about 10 blocks from here. Are you talking to me? Yeah. So as they were flying down this street, police cars, sirens, motorcycles, the president started to cough, and he coughed up some blood. Really, really bubbly, really, really red, oxygenated blood. The Secret Service agent took a look at the blood and knew immediately the president had lung damage. So the president then said, abort the White House, we're going to GW Hospital. So they turned right down there on K Street and made their way over to GW. Nobody told the motorcycle escorts in front of them, who were so busy racing through the streets trying to clear traffic, that they got to the White House and turned around only to discover that the presidential limousine wasn't there anymore. Talk about a freak out, all right? So the presidential limo rushed over to George Washington Hospital, which is just down there, and the president got out of his car. He waved to the cameras that were there, and he walked through the front door of the emergency room just as if he was going to buy some pizza or something. Just a normal, everyday kind of guy. And then the minute he walked through the doors, he collapsed onto the floor. And the Secret Service agents picked him up, threw him on a hospital gurney, and rushed him into the ER. By chance, the hospital was having an official faculty day. So all the doctors, all the professors, all the nurses were in this big staff meeting, all right? And all of a sudden, in the staff meeting, every single beeper went off at the same time. Every single beeper. Beep, 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 beep. And they're just like, I don't know what happened, but I know it's major. So the ER head and 2 top ER doctors rushed down to the ER to find out Rawhide was inbound. The president was inbound. So they prepared for him. Reagan was pushed into the gurney, and as was just mentioned in the comments, he looked at the doctors and he said, I hope you guys are all Republicans. And the doctors looked back, and even though the fact they were very committed Democrats, they said, Mr. President, today we're all Republicans. And then they put him under and began surgery to remove the bullet. Anyway, that all happened just where we're standing. This has been covered many, many times in many different books. The Secret Service has written books about this. Police officers, there's quite a few documentaries on the day Reagan was shot. I think if you go to YouTube and type day Reagan was shot, you can find most of this story right there. I'm pretty old, okay? So my half plus 7 rule is about 35. No, not 35. Yeah, 36, I think now. Which means I can date women 35 years or older, and it's not too socially awkward. Anything under that, and it's a little robbing the cradle. Actually, no, it's not that. It's 33. Yeah, 33. I'm not sure what that pub was. There's a lot of pubs here. I kind of lose track. They change names so much. So half plus 7 is you take your age divided by 2, and then add 7. And that determines the age of the socially acceptable age. Metric circle, practicing law. Practicing law in America is very different. It's very difficult to come with a foreign law degree and get a member of the bar. In fact, almost impossible in many cases, especially as a young lawyer. Can I recommend a pub? Well, there's a pub down here called the Lucky Bar, and they actually show English football matches all day long, so it's kind of like an English sports pub. That's just down here. I think New York is actually the easiest for a foreign lawyer. The California bar is actually incredibly difficult. Has one of the lowest pass rates in the country. So if you're a foreign attorney, what you can do is you can come to the United States, get what's called an LLM degree, a 1-year program, and with an LLM and a foreign law degree, you can sit for the bar exam. The problem is most law firms don't want to hire you with a foreign law degree, unless you have a specialized firm that does an area of law related to what you do or where you're from. So this is a co-work space. So there's a viral video going around yesterday of a pizza restaurant down here, and someone put a camera up to the window when the restaurant was closed, and the floor was covered with rats. I mean, the floor was covered with ratatouille rats. So if you type DuPont Pizza, D-U-P-O-N-T, DuPont Pizza on Twitter, you will feel disgusted. Yeah, DuPont Pizza is just down here on the right, and it was rat infestation. So some of you guys may have seen the movie Enemy of the State, a movie with Will Smith. There was a scene where Will Smith was meeting a computer hacker, an old friend of his, inside a building. It was like a lingerie shop, yeah? And then the guy got spooked, ran out into the street, and was hit by a car. That was filmed right here. Another film that was filmed right here was The Day the Earth Stood Still. I was just watching that the other night, the original one. And they filmed scenes where they were chasing the alien right through these streets in DuPont Circle. People have talked politics to me and really asked random places, but generally I think most of them were insane. I mean, I had a person argue with me about POW MIAs. No, so I'm in a Roy Rogers, okay, which is a low budget Arby's, all right, and this guy is talking about doing away with property rights. His view is that there should be no property, okay, and he's going on about this wacky communist economics theory with these three old guys drinking coffee, and the first question they ask is like, okay, that's all good about doing away with property, but what about the POW MIAs in Vietnam? And they're looking at him like, I don't know, it's just like, God, this is the weirdest thing. It is a low-budget Arby's, yeah, it does speak volumes. This is a pretty cool bookstore. This is Kramer Books and Afterwards. This was one of the first bookstores in the country to have a coffee shop. So a long time before Starbucks, before Barnes and Noble did it, this place had a coffee shop, and it became a very popular hangout. So Kramer Books is actually where a lot of political types go for their book signings. So like if you write a new expose about President Trump's office, you would have the book signing there. We are about less than 10 minutes away from the White House. We got to cut through this circle. This is DuPont Circle. I think I've got the light. Let's see if I got the light. I've got like 3 seconds left. 2, 1 second. Let's make it. Now this circle is filled with homeless and heroin needles. So I am actually watching where I'm stepping. It's 67 degrees right now. The time and temperature sign on the bank, 8:44. And the White House is just down the end of this road. Yep, that was about Lafayette Park. This bag of drugs bought across the street from the White House. That was all arranged by the DEA, specifically for the speech. They arranged a buy of drugs in Lafayette Park so that the president could say, this bag of drugs was bought just across the street from the White House. Kind of funny. Ooh, the Krispy Kreme donut sign is calling me. Its siren song of hot donuts now. I don't know, I gotta just walk past it. Friends is still on TV. French patisserie. My son has asked for a chocolate cake today. I'm going to make him a chocolate cake today. I do want all that sugar, but I don't need all that sugar. Wants and needs, wants and needs. There's not a lot of Walmarts in DC proper. There's one about 4 miles north of here and about 4 miles west, but there are not a lot of Walmarts in the city. I think there's 3 in the city itself. I guess there is one over by Union Station, but there's so many homeless in that area, I'm just kind of afraid to go into that Walmart. Quite a lot of swingers bars. Down on the right are a couple famous strip clubs, so I'm told. Yeah, there are a lot of what we call love me walls. Love me walls are the people that love me, where the restaurants put up walls of all the politicians and celebrities that come into the restaurant. So a lot of them, in fact, one of the most famous places is the Palm restaurant, which is just over there. Yeah, I just said that. The Palm restaurant over there is a big steakhouse where you're seated according to political rank. The higher ranking you are, the farther back your seats. Shake Shack. Yeah, I left Hong Kong, so I got away from the tear gas so I can get shot at a Walmart. Everything's relative. There are a lot of restaurants that have private rooms, not necessarily for politicians, but for anyone who can afford a private room, private dining room. Lucky Bar. This is where I go for football. Pancakes, burgers, omelets, wings, shake, waffles, cheesesteaks, cocktails, fries. I don't think they do any of those well. Rose Bar. We're here in DC for about a year. We got like 2-year assignment here in DC. And then we have to assess if we're going to stay or return to Asia or what we do. So we came here for a work assignment, and because our kids were accepted to one of the most prestigious private schools in the country. So, and we got both kids in to that school, which is no mean feat. So, yeah, my wife's company rotates people around offices around the world. So they said, why don't you go to the DC office for a couple years and see what it's like there? That's just normal. That's the 3-year contract in the expat community is basically how you work. You work 3 years somewhere, and then you either renew your contract or you get sent to another office or whatever. Some people just move every 3 years. Some find a place and want to stay. It's just how it works. A digital nomad, no. Yeah, that woman did pay to get her kids in school. I'm still not sure how my kids got into the school we got into. The application process was as complicated as it is for university, and the competition as much. Come on, light. There we go. This is like a really long light. Oh! Hey, we got another hotel coming up with some scandal history to it, all right? So what was the governor of New York? Was it Spitzer or something like that? Elliot Spitzer? Yeah. So the governor of New York a few years back somehow got tangentially caught up in some sort of money scandal. And the books of Madam, a pimp, a prostitute, were opened, and there was someone called Client Number 9. Client Number 9 had very expensive tastes, and frequently was down here in Washington, D.C., requesting services of an escort. And Client Number 9 preferred the Mayflower Hotel, which is right here. Client Number 9 was Elliot Spitzer, the governor of New York. And he had a rather attractive call girl that he spent some time with, interviewed, as to speak, here at the Mayflower Hotel. The girl was an aspiring music artist, I think once her photo got out and her link to her SoundCloud came out, she sold like a couple 100,000 records. She made a couple $100,000 on her music. The Mayflower Madam. And this is the Mayflower Hotel. Guys, we're very close to the White House. We gotta go across a park. We gotta walk a block to that park. That's Farragut Park. Cut across the park. Walk one more block to another park. Cut across that park. And then we'll be there. Well, I lived here a long time before I moved to Hong Kong. So, you know, my first job out of college, in 1987, I moved to Washington, D.C. I was a bicycle messenger. Yeah, I was riding my bike around the city, delivering packages. It was a crazy, crazy job. Got in great shape. I mean, I rode my bike a lot. But, and I actually decided to take a pay cut and go work for the U.S. Congress. So, long, strange trip it was. Bicycle messengers are pretty much out of business now. Now with the internet. So for those just joining, we're only a few minutes away from the White House, and hopefully we can get up close to it today. Hopefully there's no presidential movement or anything that blocks off access, though that does happen. I didn't work as an intern there. How often do you meet someone, they can't tell you what they do? The situation is tense in Hong Kong. I do read the comments a lot. The fact is, most people involved in the intelligence business are able to say, I work for the CIA, or I work for the NSA, but they don't tell you what they actually do, but they can say where they do work. Or B, they have a cover story, and they say, I do this, I do that. And now, how often do I hear cover stories? A lot. How often do I have people here say, I can't tell you what I do, I'd have to kill you. I mean, you hear that a lot, but usually in a bar.
Wait.
Usually when someone's trying to impress a girl. He likes his whistle. Yeah, my kids love to push the button. They're like, Dad, you need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. And they just sit there and they whack on the button until the joke is so dead that even they don't laugh anymore. That usually takes about 5 minutes. Alrighty guys, you wanted the White House, you're gonna get the White House. This is Connecticut and I Street. I as in the letter I, indigo. Then we gotta go another street, H Street, and then we cross over Pennsylvania Avenue and we'll be at the White House. So 2 blocks, folks, 2 blocks. Then I have to figure out how I'm gonna get home. Maybe I'll scooter home. I've done some scooter streets. The White House is smaller, yeah. What's interesting about the White House is how little of it is actually practical use, you know. A lot of it is just ceremonial open space. It's also kind of dingy. You know, the White House has a huge rat problem. In fact, the other day a mouse got loose. So the ceiling fell in the White House press briefing room, and a mouse fell out and started running all over the press briefing room. So the cameramen and the media folks were like jumping all over the place trying to catch this mouse that was running through the White House briefing room. So type White House press mouse, or just type White House mouse on Google, and you can see this video of the press scurrying around, capturing a little rodent. And you know, the rats have been a big problem at the White House for many, many years. In fact, when President Bush Sr. was there, Barbara Bush was swimming in the White House swimming pool, and a rat jumped into the pool with her. And then the Secret Service, quote, dispatched the rat. I don't really know what they did. I'm told they drowned it. I'm told they shot it. I think if they shot it, they'd have to like drain the water and clean the water. Dispatched the rat. That's the White House Historical Society over there. They're the guys that put out the White House Christmas ornament every year. This year, the Christmas ornament theme is I love the smell of napalm in the morning. So the official White House Christmas ornament. And we're going to take a quick look at it, which I think you can order online. So they put out a Christmas ornament every year. It's a big seller in the DC community. Well, there was the guy in the New York City Police Department who had to review all movies for obscenity. That was kind of an interesting job. Though he said he was actually so numb he hated his job. Like all he did was watch stuff to determine if it was, quote, obscene. Alrighty guys, White House Christmas ornament on sale at the White House Historical Association. There it is. Death from above. Dun 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 dun. So this is the official White House Christmas ornament, Marine One. I'm gonna get it. I am gonna get one. Not today. I don't think it's open yet. But I'm gonna get a White House Christmas ornament. All right. Let's go on to the White House grounds. You can order it from the White House Historical Society. It's kind of funky. Now, unfortunately, they're building a new fence around the house. They're building a new wall around the White House. Build that wall. $22. God, that's a lot of money. So there's a lot of construction ongoing down here at the White House while they put in a new fence. It kind of obscures the view a little bit. But the old fence was 8 feet high, and people were just flopping over that and like running onto the White House grounds. So they decided to make a new fence that is 12 feet high. Hello, Barb. So the new White House fence is going to be, it's going to look exactly the same as the old White House fence. It's just going to be taller. I guess it's easier to shimmy up 8 feet than it is 12. I guess that makes sense. Is he in Florida? I don't know where he is today. I haven't checked his Twitter this morning. So there are protesters here, as there are every day. There's been protesters for, oh, it's a squirrel. Hello, squirrel. The squirrels here are really flippin' tame because there's so many people that come by and feed them that they're just basically like, yeah, human, whatever. Yeah. So. Dimsdale. Oh, that was a hedgehog, wasn't it? If I said Spiny Norman, how many of you would actually know what I'm talking about? Not many. Dimsdale. No. Yeah, it was a Monty Python routine. Oh, so something is going on. We're not allowed on Pennsylvania Avenue right now. How much does it cost to rent a scooter? It costs $1 to start, and then somewhere between 15 and 25 cents a minute. So you pay by the minute. So these are protesters, Chinese tour group. the White House. This is technically the back of the White House. Now, I could take you around to the front if you want, but it's going to take it's going to be a bit of a walk actually. But we can go around to the front. The White House was designed by a Scottish architect, and in Scottish architectural traditions, the front faces the water being the Potomac, which is the other side. So this is the back door. Yeah, you used to be able to walk up to that fence. In fact, usually you can walk here on Pennsylvania Avenue, but there must be something going on today, so that this road is closed. Heck, you used to be able to drive on this road. I used to take the bus down this street. Oh, hungry. $9 according to the beeps. You know, you would think that the flag up down would indicate if he was in residence, but no, it doesn't. Because they don't want to tip off anyone about anything of the president's whereabouts. So they don't like giving out clues. Morning. It is morning, it's 9 a.m. So over here is the Department of the Treasury. So we're going to loop around the Treasury and we'll come up on the back side of the White House, or the front side. Now on the Congress, yes, the House and the Senate have a flag. Now there's a flag that goes up over the Capitol building, that's always up. But the flag that goes up over the House or the Senate, the left or the right side of it, that depends on who is there. There's not a U.S. Mint here. There is, however, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. So the mint's in Philadelphia, but that's where they mint the coins. But the Printing and Engraving Office, where they print the dollars and the postage stamps, is located here in D.C. This is the Treasury. If you guys have a $10 bill, I don't think I have one. Let me see if I got a $10 bill. Oh, I got a 5, I got a 1s. If you have a $10 bill, if you have a 10 US dollars, look at the back. Look at the back of a $10 bill. And that's the same view. No, the Treasury doesn't actually store money. Maybe digitally they have a disbursement office, but but there is. If you take a tour of the printing and engraving.
Trouble riding your scooter in there?
No, you can ride scooters there. If you walk through printing and engraving, the average tour, during your average tour of printing and engraving, you will see about 100 to 200 million US cash. Yeah. Just coming off the printing presses. Ka-chung, 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 ka-chung. In fact, at printing and engraving, you can buy money. You can buy fresh, brand new dollar bills right off the printing presses. In fact, you can buy uncut dollar bills in sheets. Yep. And then if you want, you can cut them up and spend it. So, that's actually... So, congressmen, this is kind of a weird thing you can do. If a congressman so wants, he can buy, he gets some fresh dollar bills. And then he will send them over to the Secretary of the Treasury. And the Secretary of the Treasury will personally autograph the dollar bills. And then the congressman gives it out as like a souvenir. Personally autographed dollar bills. It's kind of funky. I don't have any $2 bills, but I'm sure there's still some around in circulation. So this is the Hotel Washington. It's got a really cool bar on the roof with one of the best views in the city. This is where, if you watch The Godfather Part 2 very, very closely, Michael found out that his second son was aborted by Kate. It was an abortion, Michael. It was unholy. It was a son, Michael, and I killed it because this must end. All this Sicilian thing. This must end. ostensibly that was in the Hotel Washington. Of course, it was probably in a soundstage in LA, and they just did the exterior shots, but it's a cool idea, yeah? I think that's probably the most famous scene of the movie, yeah? So this is the entrance to the public tours of the White House. The public tour takes you through the East Wing, the Lincoln bedroom, the dining room, etc. It's pretty boring. Yeah, I think I've seen that movie a few too many times. At least I've seen that scene because whenever they talk about it, they always show that scene, you know, because that's like the most memorable scene of the movie, yeah? Okay, so you wanted to see the front of the White House. That means we got to go over this side. Great place to park and walk. Honestly, the best thing to do is what most people would recommend is that you park at a metro station, take a subway in, and then walk around. I like hiking outdoors. You know, if you really want to go for a hike, go up to Great Falls. Great Falls is about 10-15 minutes north of the city. It's a waterfall, rapids, mountains, rocks. It's really quite pretty. So this also used to be a public road until the Secret Service closed it. And it's used it as a parking base for all their cars, dogs. It really cut the city in two. When the White House was sealed up, it became incredibly difficult to transit across town. You couldn't get from one side of the city to the other. And it led to a redevelopment of the east side of the city because people just couldn't get across the White House grounds to the businesses on the west side of the city. Hey, thanks for the super hearts. So we're coming up to the front of the White House. In fact, that's the White House right there, that white building. Yep, gotcha. And we'll go around a bit farther. That's what that large tour. Oh yeah, here we go, guys. The White House Christmas tree, the official Christmas tree of the United States. So this is the official White House Christmas tree. It's pretty beat up. So one day, a presidential helicopter was in distress, had low fuel, and they came down too low and they snipped the top of the Christmas tree off with the rotors before making an emergency landing here in the grass. That's why it looks chopped off. And I made that story up. Yeah, I think it's a cool story. I think it sounds good, but the reality is the tree just got a little sick and they had to cut the top part of it off. But I mean, helicopter in distress making emergency landing by the Washington Monument. I mean, come on, that's awesome. I don't know, the Nationals lost last night, I think. What is it, 1-1 now? They don't get a new tree. They used to get a new tree, and then they said, oh, this is a waste of trees. Actually, you know what? It's raining here. Getting wet. Yeah, so the sprinklers are on, and we're all getting wet. Okay, guys. No, that tree just sits there. That's where they do the White House ceremony. That's the official tree for the White House. The Capitol has one too on the Capitol grounds. So this is the front of the White House. If you look closely, you can probably see some snipers up on the roof, or some anti-aircraft missiles, or something. It is a better view from this side. The president lives on the top floor. Up here, the third floor is the residence. Off to the west side is the West Wing. No, we can't really get any closer right now. The general public can go on tours inside the White House. But generally, if you're just walking around, this is as close as it gets. All right, I promised you I'd take you to the White House.